Good evening, Willowdale, and welcome to Meet Your Neighbor, NeighbourLink North York's weekly interview series. The show is super simple. Every Monday, we introduce you to a new neighbor in the spirit of building a more connected community, and we ask them tough questions like, how much Halloween candy did you really eat last night? Joining us live from Willowdale this evening is a man we're all lucky to call our neighbor, Mr. Chris Pereira. Chris is a husband, father, sales director, volunteer, and neighborhood association board member. He loves to play golf and hockey, as well as go on hikes with his family. And as one of our first volunteers, Chris has been so helpful ever since April 2020, doing the work we do here at NeighbourLink North York. We're lucky to have him and thrilled he could join us tonight. Before we bring out Chris, allow me to introduce you to our host, Lily Chang. Hey, Lily.
Hi, Sebastian, and hello, fellow Willowdalers. Hope you're having a great night. I know that I'm super excited to have a chance to chat with one of our key volunteers who's done so much for us right from the beginning of the Willowdale COVID response network, which started in the first month or the second month of the first lockdown. So we have shared quite a journey together, although, from a distance. So I'm really looking forward to this chat. But first, I want to shout out to all our neighbors because I heard one house in Willowdale had 500 kids visit last night. So what a Halloween it's been in Willowdale. The weather was just beautiful, and I think it was our first taste of some kind of normal since this pandemic began. So happy belated Halloween, and without further ado, let's welcome Chris. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hi, Lily. I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Did you get out to go trick-or-treating last night, or your kids are past that?
Yeah, my kids are a little past that now. They were at Halloween parties all weekend, but yeah, we had a lot of kids come by yesterday. Starting at probably 5 or 5:30. A lot of the smaller, younger kids came out, and it was a steady stream all night. And I was telling Janine, my wife, that I think it was all that pent up demand. From last year, all the kids were out and having a good time, and the weather was fantastic. So yeah, it was a great evening.
That's great to hear. So, this is a great chance for us to, hear more from you, because even though I've been working with you for a while now, we've actually not had the chance to have a long chat. So I'm really happy to have this moment. I thought perhaps we could start just by asking, how long have you lived in Willowdale?
So yeah, I've lived in Willowdale since August 2000. So my wife and I got married, and Janine's from Mississauga, and I grew up in Scarborough and in Markham. So this was kind of a nice middle ground. We managed to find a condo right on Beecroft, and that was 2000. And then and then we've had a few addresses in these past 20 years. But all of them have been in Willowdale, so it's been a great ride, and we now live on Ellerslie across from Dempsey Park.
So you have you met halfway.
Yeah.
Right? Willowdale's about halfway between
It's
Scarborough
about halfway.
And you planted your family here. How has it been raising your family in this neighborhood?
It's fantastic. We didn't know much about Willowdale when we first moved here, right? And you sort of just take a chance on a neighborhood. And I wouldn't say that we did a lot of research. It was more to do with Janine worked downtown, so she works for Ernst & Young, so it was easy for her to take the subway and get downtown. I was working in North York at the time, so it was more about convenience. It was sort of also partway between our families, like our parents. So it just seemed like a really, really convenient location. However, 20 years later, I would say, probably the best decision we ever made, because for our daughters, they grew up, and I have two daughters, by the way, both teenagers. The school system, they did elementary school as well as high school, right in the area, not too far away. And even just the friends that they've built, the friends that they've fostered over these years, it's been fantastic. And we've had neighbors, literally my next door neighbor, our daughters have grown up since preschool. So they went to preschool together, they went to grade school together, they're in dance together. So talk about, setting that foundation for your family. It's been a fabulous location to live in. I remember when they were very young, they went to Young Hearts Daycare. My parents or Janine's parents would pick them up. They'd walk with them to the North York Library, hang out there until we came home, or walk Dempsey Park right across the street. So, they've got a lot of great memories growing up in Willowdale. And I think the community, it's just a fantastic community.
It's so beautiful, and just it's walkable neighborhood. I think to have children, young children, and live proximity to the library, we are very fortunate to have all these resources. And I think it's a gift that you have been able to raise your family alongside another family. That is one of the challenges sometimes for some families when you land in a condo. Sometimes there's a greater turnover of neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And generally people with young children reach a point in condo living when they say, oh, we need to have a little more space. And then so harder to have that long relationship. So what a great blessing that is. And during your time here in Willowdale, you have, in fact, many years of volunteering with the St. Vincent de Paul Society. Do you want to share a little bit about, what that's been like, and what motivated you to do that?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a member of St. Edward the Confessor, which is the Catholic Church. It's actually right behind my house. So, there's no excuses for me. But yeah, so I was looking as my daughters got older and became more independent, and I was looking for some ways to sort of give back to the community. And even as a kid, my parents were, very much involved in the church and involved with community volunteering, helping newcomers coming to the country, because, they were in a similar position, right? Being new to a country, they leaned on others when they arrived. And so they found, they wanted to give back. So as my daughters got older and became more independent, and I had a little more free time, through St. Edward's, they had the Vincent de Paul Society. And there was probably 2 or 3 main initiatives that I was involved in. One was the Christmas drive. So the church, along with my daughter's school, they would collect funds, and then they would build Christmas baskets that would then be delivered throughout the neighborhood for those families that were maybe in need at that time of year. And again, it was a great way to meet the church community, meet the school community, bring them together. We had some common interests where all of us were looking for ways to give back. And then just to, I think sometimes we forget that there's different people are in different situations, financial situations, emotional situations, even in your neighborhood, like less than a kilometer away. So it really opened my eyes to see that, Willowdale is a very diverse community with people with very, very different needs. So Vincent de Paul gave me that first kind of glimpse into different neighborhoods in Willowdale and ways that you could help and give back to the community.
And how many years ago was that?
So that was when my daughters were in grade school. So that would have been, probably a good 5-7 years ago is when I started with St. Vincent de Paul. And it was, mainly, a couple times a year and going to some meetings and some things like that.
So fast forward to April 2020, right? We're all kind of stunned. We're entering this tunnel. We have no idea how long the tunnel would be.
Yeah.
I was still talking to my husband today, we really just had no idea the impact of how every part of our lives would be kind of reshaped and redefined for this long season. But, you joined us very early on for the Willowdale COVID Response Network. How did you hear about it, and what prompted you to sign up?
Yeah, so it was so I guess probably March, April timeframe. And I think I saw a poster in the neighborhood, I think just sort of maybe on a bus shelter, or maybe a lamppost somewhere. And and I thought, I think it just said, would you like to volunteer? Would you like to help out in the community? And I felt again, now when I first started St. Vincent de Paul, my daughters were, in probably, 10, 11, 12. Now my daughters are, 13, 14, 15. And so, I'm more free time, I'd say, a little more free time. And then, again, I could see how, the community, I could see how much some people really worried about COVID. And to be honest, I think I was one of those people early on where I wasn't too bothered by COVID. I wasn't as nervous about COVID. I was still going to grocery stores, and I thought, let me see if there's people that are in that situation. And I know the demographics of Willowdale, right? It's a much older population. My parents are older, and I could put myself in their shoes. And I know they were quite hesitant and were skeptical about going out to grocery stores, and they obviously needed groceries. So yeah, I thought, why not? Let's see what I could do to help out in the neighborhood. So that's how I first became aware. And then I can't remember if I originally talked to yourself, or I think I called in to the volunteer kind of hotline and left my name and phone number, and here we are.
Almost a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
Close to 2 years. Yeah, and it's been tremendous to have your help. I've just been so grateful, on a regular basis. I think throughout the last year and a half, you would message me and say, do you need any more help? And that's just for someone who is looking at, the complex needs of the neighborhood and all the different things that are all the moving pieces, just to have that knowledge. Oh, like there's someone who is making themselves available, no matter what the need might be, especially during a pandemic. And even just the comfort in walking into different neighborhoods in our community. It's not something that everyone might feel comfortable with, but you've been doing it. You did it with the St. Vincent de Paul Society, and I'm so grateful that you have no qualms. And even most recently in our turkey giveaway Thanksgiving food bank pop-up, you were helping these wonderful neighbors who received IKEA bags full of food and even extra bags and boxes, and helping them walk back to their residences. What has that experience been like for you to have, I guess, a little more personal interaction with people that we're serving?
Yeah, no, it's been a fantastic experience. I mean, I think all through my adult life, we've always, donated, or, we've been a part of various fundraising activities. But to me, to really be active in your community, to give where you live and to do things local, and actually see, joy and happiness on some of these neighbors' faces, it's that you get that immediate feedback, and that you're really helping versus sending $100 to United Way, which we still do. But I just find seeing some of the families when they saw that they were getting a turkey and all the fixings, and then they could go in and pick some food from the other area, like there was just extreme happiness on their faces, right? And that's I don't know, it's a great experience, and it's a great feeling to know that you can have a direct impact and make someone's holiday seasons, especially when you see some of these young kids, and how happy they are. It's a great feeling, and it's something, even a few times when I'm doing the deliveries during the week, I'll even take my daughters with me, and when it's especially in the summer months, just again so they can see what's the different parts of the city, the different parts of Willowdale, because it's good to open their eyes at a young age. Not everyone is in the same socioeconomic situation that they may be in, right? So it's been a great experience, and I'm happy to be a part of the team.
So, I think what you're saying echoes the hearts of a lot of parents who are raising their children in Willowdale, because in general, a large majority of people in our community are, at a certain level of privilege, right? To live in Willowdale, you have to be secure in a certain way. And then, just to want your children to have eyes wide open and see actually the world is not like this. The world is actually, and even right here in our neighborhood, there is great disparity in terms of access to resources and opportunities. So, that bringing your children into the neighborhood, but even I think for myself in the work that we have, grown into, because I've kind of grown into this. I worked with the community 5 or 6 years ago. I ran a basketball drop-in when I was working at People's Church, and that was my first foray into the neighborhood, going door to door, meeting the families. But I think when you really hear the stories of the different families, you realize, wow, this is right here. It's across the street, literally it's across the street from so many people living in Willowdale. And yet, when I talk to the young people in that community, they would say things like, I feel like when I try to ask for things, advocate for resources for myself, no one's listening, or that, opportunities are just not there. So what do you think could be done to build more bridges between, because, I think one thing that Thanksgiving really showed me, and it's something I kind of deeply knew, but I wasn't 100% sure, is that we live in an incredibly generous and kind neighborhood. We could not have pulled off that turkey Thanksgiving drive, in the 2.5 week span that we had. It could not have happened if Willowdale was not this amazing, I know there's a lot of conflict right now for some sensitive issues, but in general, I believe there's a lot of inherent goodness in the neighborhood of the people that we see every day on the streets. But often it's just that lack of knowledge of how can I help, and what help is needed. That's what the missing piece is. What ideas do you have of how could we build better bridges, especially I think for young people who need a larger network, need mentors, need opportunities?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What we've tried to do on a few occasions where you've done, either the Mother's Day basket drive or the Christmas drive. What Janine and I do is we normally take your emails and we push it out to all of our friends, because like you said, people are generous and they want to give. They just don't always know the venues, right? And they're not, people aren't aware. Everyone is so busy nowadays. You tend to be very focused on your family and and your immediate needs and what's happening around you. You don't really realize, but once you do, right, then people are very willing to help. And so I think it's about awareness, right? Like I guess I found NeighbourLink by seeing some advertisements and then getting involved. But I like to be involved in the community, so we have to find other ways. I don't know if it's once you and I talked about what I do at St. Edward's. Is it somehow through the schools? We can partner with schools or partner with churches in the community or other associations, right? Like we have neighborhood associations, Lansing as well as West Willowdale. I'm not as familiar with the east side, but west of Yonge, there's two pretty strong neighborhood associations. If we can somehow maybe do a presentation at their board meetings, or I think it's just like that, just connecting the dots between all of these large gatherings or communities of people that all have different interests. If somehow we could bridge them together, even if you get 5 or 10% from each group, right? I think it would really help. And the other thing I was talking to Maria about during the turkey pop-up was even businesses, right? If there's some way we can communicate or present to local businesses in the area, I'm sure that they would be willing. Now that we're coming out of COVID, I think they would also be willing to contribute it. I think people want to be involved in the community, and I think that's the strongest pitch. The strongest pitches, you may be giving to United Way or to Share Life or some of these other charitable organizations, but if you could really give to your community, I think it's that stronger connection is what would draw people.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing that I have learned is this is not just about me giving. I'm receiving as I give. And I know that in the relationships that I have built with people living in different areas of the neighborhood, I've learned so much and been inspired and sometimes been challenged by the people that I meet and challenged in good ways, ways that cause me to be humbled or to, reflect on how I can be a better person. So it's not, I think the danger sometimes is, oh, we'll parachute in and we are superheroes. But in truth, there is a tremendous invitation for us to become better neighbors ourselves and learn more about life. And even for me, I think one thing I've been really inspired by a lot of the women that I've met in the community housing neighborhood at 415 Willowdale. There is a tremendous sense of generosity between neighbors in that community, and they look out for each other's kids at the park in ways that, I don't know if you've been to a park in the rest of Willowdale recently, but sometimes it looks like an alien landing has happened because you have the ratio of parent to children is usually like almost 2 to 1 sometimes. And then all the parents are standing like distance from each other and we're all looking at the playground. And it's like very different when you go into the other neighborhood, into like Willow Tree. The kids are playing freely and maybe there's 1 or 2 adults to 5 or 6 kids and so they're looking out for each other in ways that I think the rest of us could really learn from. And in order to look out for each other, you have to trust each other. You have to be willing to go out of your comfort zone. And we just live in a world where I feel like that's so hard. Maybe too much news. So we just know too much of the violent and terrible things that can happen in the world. And because of that, we have all these safety mechanisms. But I think, if you have fewer resources, then your greatest resource could be your neighbors. And so they do, I think, get that better than we do sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like just a great learning experience. I think for all of us to share a journey together with a wider group of people in our community.
Yeah,
why do you think it's important for us to broaden our connectivity within the neighborhood? What could that do for us?
Well, I mean, I think, getting to know people, building relationships, right? And it's going to foster a stronger community, right? It's going to bring, safety, I think, safety with numbers. It's going to, it'll allow us to create that awareness on that there are needs in our community, beyond maybe just our own, right? So I think once you build those relationships, you build trust, you hear about maybe the needs of others. I think that that allows people to then take action, right? They, and that's what we've tried to do with our friends around certain times of the year. We'll say, hey, there's this great initiative. These friends trust us. They know that good is going to be done by this initiative. So they trust us, and they're going to go, and they're going to donate or want to be involved, right, and get involved. And like you said, I think people really do. They want to help, and they also receive by interacting with others and doing a good deed. I think they get benefit out of that as well. But I think the larger the community, the less strain it is on a few people, right? Then you can broaden the reach, You can broaden your financial resources, and you can share kind of the you can share the I guess the weight, or you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You can share the effort, and just have greater reach over a larger part of Willowdale.
Mhm. So, I've been thinking about NeighbourLink North York because it's been about a year now that We Love Willowdale and the COVID Response Network was integrated in order to bring sustainability to the work. And the analogy that I've come up with is that it's like a barn raising, because back in the day when there were barn raisings, it was I'll help you, and then maybe one day, you'll help me. And in some ways, like, we're all going to age, and maybe one day, you never know what's going to happen in your life. And
Hello.
I don't know. I see a strange
Yeah, I
connection.
think you're. Yeah,
Okay.
I couldn't. You cut off for a little bit there.
I cut off. Okay. So I was just saying that, life is so unpredictable, and you never know, when you're going to need your neighbors. So to the extent that there is a strong fabric of community around us, is to the extent that one day that you or the people you love around you would also be supported similarly to how we are trying to support those around us who are facing gaps or inequities. So yeah, that was the analogy, was like, oh, we're raising a barn together. And I don't know, I'm like, maybe people aren't going to get it because a lot of us have never farmed
No,
before.
no, but I think for me, what it is, it's to your point, right? My parents came, they received help and support from their neighbors at the time. Right now, I'm born in Toronto. I've got maybe a little bit more knowledge, resources, etc. So it's good to pay it forward and help. And I think, and at the same time, I want my daughters to learn about that as well, because they're going to be second generation Canadians, and maybe they'll be a little bit more, they'll be better off, and therefore so I think it takes time, and it's going to evolve. But I think if you continue to foster these types of traits, and you build that into your community, which I think is what NeighbourLink is doing, right? It's going to take time, but you just have to keep fostering these types of initiatives, and that's what will be the foundation for this community, if we can keep kind of spreading the word, right? And spreading these types of initiatives, which I think COVID was good because it sort of jump started, and it made, I find COVID really made people look, instead of looking inwards, look a little more outwards and see how they could help others. So I think that was a good starting point. And now we just have to keep it going, and keep growing the team, and growing the awareness, and growing the interest, and get our kids involved, and then it's hopefully it just mushrooms and grows from there.
That is the hope. What are your hopes for the future of Willowdale?
So I guess my hopes are, so number one is, I love the fact that Willowdale is so, diverse. It seems like a fairly welcoming, community. I think we've got the best of both worlds. We have, nice tree-lined streets with green parks, and trails and things like that, which is, more the suburb kind of feel. But we also have a bit of the downtown feel, where we have restaurants that you can walk to, lots of retail options. We have theaters, and movie theaters, and so we really have we have we have subway stops. So we really have the best of both worlds. So I'm hoping that we'll continue to be a destination for people live here, to shop here, to come and be entertained here, whether it's restaurants or theaters, and that we welcome all people, and we're able to help and pitch in to just be a very welcoming community. And I think we're seeing a bit of a transition, because there's a lot of, I think the demographics are shifting from an older kind of population to slowly shifting to a younger, as we're seeing a lot more families, and a lot more kids with some of the condos, things like that. You're getting an infusion of younger people. So I think that's great. And I'm looking forward to seeing where we go in the next 10, 20 years.
It is a beautiful mix of suburban and urban qualities. I think I really do appreciate that mix.
I agree.
Yeah. So I have now a list of questions as part of what we call the Willowdale Rapid Fire Round. And just to hear your experience of our neighborhood. So the first one is, what is your favorite spot to hang out in our neighborhood?
Favorite spot to hang out? Well, I'd say if it's restaurants, then it would be, we really like Mezzanotte, which is an Italian restaurant. We do a lot of family kind of dinners there. And then recently my daughter and I will go to breakfast at Aroma in the morning. So just to, get a coffee and a croissant or something like that. And then if it's after work drinks, and there's only two rooftop patios in the neighborhood, Jack Astor's or Union Social. So that's kind of where I spread that. Those would be my favorite hangouts.
Chris's circuit. And so that's funny, because actually the second question was, what's your favorite place to eat? So your favorite place to hang out is the places where you eat.
I guess if I pick like just a hangout spot, I really like Mel Osman Square. Like I think they've done a really nice job there. Like whether it's sitting on the benches or watching people play ping pong, it's just a nice central location where you can just sit and enjoy the sunshine on a nice summer day. So I would say that's maybe my hangout. And then I already answered your.
Well, I think Mel Osman Square is like our piazza, right? When you visit Italy and you see all those huge areas where people just gather.
Yeah.
And, in Asia, the parks are also similarly like the central place where people hang out. Like people in Taiwan, where I lived for a few years, people are doing like Tai Chi or even singing karaoke at 6 a.m. in the park. But it's a real community gathering place.
Yeah.
And
well, one of my favorite days would be Canada Day, right, at Mel Osman Square. It was like the best. It would just be everybody jammed into Mel Osman Square. Every inch of lawn was covered with people sitting, and then there'd be music. Every nationality was visible there, food trucks and then fireworks, right? It was great. I really hope we can get back to that someday.
Yeah, I remember, I think the last one we went to, my kids were still quite small, and we were squeezed in, I think, on one of the islands in the middle of Yonge Street, because they had closed off, right? And, we didn't want to be too close because it might be too loud. So we're like crammed in this little island looking at just the sea of people. But now thinking back, you're just like, wow, what a precious memory to be huddled with the community, and how hard that is to even imagine now, given our current context. So we must keep dreaming. It will come back.
It's gonna come. I'm optimistic.
So you've seen tremendous change over the last 20 years, I'm sure, in our neighborhood. What do you see as the biggest pieces of change that have happened?
The biggest pieces of change. I mean, so I think the year we moved in, the Shepherd subway was opened, or shortly thereafter, right? Probably within a year anyway. And I think that that was a big change, just having that accessibility to Fairview. So I know that was a big change, and I think just the developments, right? Like the condo developments have been have I'm sure if you over 20 years, I can't imagine the number of buildings, and obviously it brings a lot of people, but it also, also brings other options. It's brought a lot of retail. It's brought investment into the community. So there, there's pluses, minuses. There's definitely way more traffic than there ever was. But I think it goes to show you. I mean, it's definitely a neighborhood that builders want to come to. Businesses want to open up shop. So I think it's a good sign, and it's an indication that Willowdale is an attractive area to both live and invest in, which I think is great.
Do you have a hidden gem in Willowdale that you'd be okay to share with us?
Yeah, I think a hidden gem. I don't know if many people know about this, but it's really good for young families. But it's Abbotsford Park. So it's a park that was, I think, newly renovated, and you can actually access it off of Ellerslie. So it's on the west side of Yonge, and you can get to it either from Abbotsford Road or from Ellerslie. But it's a beautiful park, especially if you have children. I'd say less than maybe 8 or 9. It's a really, really great park tucked into a neighborhood. So I don't know if many people know about that, but I'd say that's a hidden gem.
That's a good gem to discover, especially if you have young children.
Yeah. Have you been there?
I've been there myself, but when I was walking, but I've never actually brought my kids to play there. Yeah, so maybe we'll do a trek over there. Sometimes it does feel like, crossing Yonge Street. I'm on the east side. And crossing Yonge Street can be harrowing with little kids. And, I mean, we do it, but I do find that I do have a tendency to eat and play shop more on the east side. Just there is that safety of crossing that large road. It can seem a little daunting sometimes. And what is your most memorable Willowdale moment?
Wow, memorable Willowdale moment. I mean, the one thing that it's not specific to Willowdale, but I remember the summer that the whole the power grid shut down. And I forget what year that was, maybe 07 or something like that, 07, 08, around there. And we were living in a townhouse, and I remember driving home, all the lights and everything were out. There were people, and there was a guy I remember right in the middle of Churchill and Yonge, right? And he was directing traffic. And then I got home, and my daughter was maybe 3 or 4 at the time. There's no electricity. So our neighbors, we just got the barbecues out, and we were, warming up the bottles in pots of water and cooking burgers and things like that. So it's just a memory that sticks out. Again, talk about knowing your neighbors and having a good community. A time like that, or even the ice storm that we had, I remember, we were kind of stuck without electricity for a few days, and that's when you really lean on your neighbors, and it's good to be a part of a strong community. So yeah, just those are a couple of memories I have of my time here in Willowdale.
Those are beautiful memories, and it's interesting just how it's really challenges that bring us together the most. So, even I think the pandemic, as you brought up, has brought out the best in many people in our neighborhood, and that desire to contribute and that awareness. We got off the busy train for a while, and then we looked around and we thought, wow, I'm actually part of a neighborhood. And even just like how many walks people have been on, to say hi. How has the experience of your neighborhood been during the pandemic?
No, it's been great. I think, like you said, right, the amount, we weren't, all kids' activities grinded to a halt, all social activities, driving out of the neighborhood to friends and family, ground to a halt. So you really were, and walking was a big thing where you would stop and see your neighbors and talk, or we had, we would go to neighbors' houses and kind of stand on the driveway, or, have a beer in a garage. All those types of things happened. And again, and I've actually had quite a few friends that don't live, in this neighborhood, just say, they could when we always say, oh yeah, we're they would be more staying in their homes or doing things just with their immediate family. A lot of times we were saying, oh yeah, we're going for a walk, and we bumped into X person or Y person, or we went over to so and so's backyard, or just sat on a driveway and had a drink. So again, I think this community, the walkability is a big thing. The chances of you bumping into your neighbor or seeing someone that in this community, I think happens at a much higher rate of occurrence. I grew up some of my teenage years in Markham, and everyone hopped into a car and was driving to Walmart or Costco or something like that, and then drive back again and back into their house. Where I think the walkability and the convenience, and the ability to walk in trails, walk in the cemetery, all of these types of things gives you that chance of meeting your neighbor and then having a conversation with them, which has been really, really good, I would say. And the pandemic has definitely fostered that.
And that is the raison d'etre of this webcast. There's so many people in our neighborhood, and we have, sometimes we don't get to meet every corner. There's just so many treasures of people. So thank you so much, Chris. You are a treasure of Willowdale for all that you do and continue to do in our community. I'm really grateful for having you as part of our team at NeighbourLink, and I look forward to all the work that we can do together in the days and years to come.
Thanks, Lily. Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate the opportunity, and and your leadership and your team. It's a pleasure to work to work with the team. Super organized, and it's great. I think it's good what we're doing for the neighborhood, and if we can do more and cast a wider net, bring in more people, then I think we'll continue to grow as an organization. So I look forward to be a part of it.
Thanks, Chris. And we will now welcome back Sebastian.
Hey, you two. Yeah, I mean, to have met, you meet people a lot of interesting ways sometimes in the neighborhood, but yeah, I've never met someone while unloading a trunk full of turkeys, and that's how I got to meet Chris. And so I will never ever forget meeting Chris. So that was an awesome, and I'll never forget that power outage too that summer. I remember eating a lot of melted ice cream before it all ran out, me and my siblings. That was the best. And Lily, I mean, I've learned a lot from you over the last few months. I did not expect I would be learning about 19th century farm techniques, like barn raising and things like that. But this live stream is full of surprises, and that was another one. So thank you to both of you for that amazing conversation. I loved getting to be a fly on the wall for these Meet Your Neighbors. And at the bottom of the screen, I've got scrolling our website link to our volunteer page. So it's neighborlink.org/volunteer, where you can fill out a quick and easy form that allows you to find out some of the volunteer opportunities that are coming up. And before the end of the new year, there are plenty of opportunities to volunteer. There's so much going on in the neighborhood and that NeighbourLink has in store. So definitely check that out. And without further ado, I mean, we'll be back next time, same place, new neighbor. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Lily. We hope everyone in Willowdale has a wonderful week ahead. And we'll play our song, and we'll go about our evening. Go eat some leftover Halloween candy, everyone. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Sebastian. Thanks, Lily.
Bye. Thank you.